Welcome to the Depot Sports Chat. I'm Drew Rubenstein with Kristin Kurelic, and we're in week 5 of the prep football season. We'll take a look at 4 area football games this Friday night. The first being Morgantown's trip to Martinsburg. In the computer system that determines the playoff seedings, they have the Mohegans at number 7 and Martinsburg at number 8, but I don't think you would probably agree with that kind of assessment.
Definitely not. In the Sports Writers poll, these two teams have been ranked number 1 and number 2 all season. And when you think about premier football in the state of West Virginia, it's always Morgantown and Martinsburg. So this is definitely the game of the week, if not the game of the season.
When you look at these two teams as you indicated that are familiar with one another, two teams that have played good football in recent years. So far this season, though, they've had different results. Morgantown High hasn't really had to play its starters in the second half, whereas Martinsburg has been in quite a few close games and actually lost to what was probably a quality out-of-state opponent. Does that matter going into this, that Morgantown High hasn't experienced any tough games, whereas Martinsburg has a little bit more experience in those kinds of nail-biters?
It could. As you said, Morgantown has been winning all of their games pretty easily. They have taken their starters out pretty much after halftime of the game. So this will be a test for Morgantown, for those starters. How are they going to handle being in a, potentially a close game in the fourth quarter, having played twice as many minutes as usual? And are they going to be up to that challenge? Martinsburg does have the edge when it comes to having been tested already and having been in close games. So, we'll find out.
That said, obviously Morgantown High's not done anything wrong to get itself in that type of situation, but the Bulldogs have had Morgantown's number in recent years. What are some things that you'll be watching for Friday night that Morgantown High has to do well to have a chance?
The keys for Morgantown, defensively, first of all, Martinsburg obviously is the most powerful offensive opponent they have faced to date, by far. Malik Watkins, their quarterback, is just a great threat all around, and he starts every play with the ball in his hands, so that's always dangerous. And the thing that Morgantown has to do to stop Martinsburg is prevent any big plays. The Bulldogs are a team that they are fast, they are athletic, and they like to strike quick. And I was talking to Coach John Bowers, and he said, for them to win this week, they've got to make Martinsburg, if they're going to score, they've got to make them snap the ball 10, 12, 14 times on a drive, not 2. They've got to prevent the big play. Offensively, Morgantown has to do what Morgantown does, which is impose their will, be physical. They've got to use that big offensive line where they've got several of those guys that are going to D1 colleges. They've got to use those guys, and they've got to push their way down the field against Martinsburg. And Chazzy Thomas has to continue being the Chazzy Thomas that he has been all season against the lesser opponents, and being able to run the ball.
It'll be interesting to see what Chazzy and that offense does, especially in the second half if it's close. But going around, University High back at home against Parkersburg South. And although the Hawks are coming off of their first loss of the season, it sounds like you still think this one probably matches up well for the Hawks.
I do think that Parkersburg South does have a quality running back in Schwindeman. He's a good runner. However, as far as the rest of the lineup, I just don't think that the Patriots at this point have the athletes to match up with the ones that University does. And University is, coming off that tough loss to Wheeling Park. They're going to be mad. They're going to be fired up, and they're coming back to their home stadium, and they're going to want to make a statement that they are better than the mistakes that they made last week. So I would give the edge to University in this one.
Speaking of another team maybe trying to make some statements, Preston returns home against North Marion, and do you think the Knights will be able to carry over the momentum that they had from last week?
I think that they just might. The Knights rattled off 47 unanswered points to come from behind and beat Elkins last week, so they do have a little bit of momentum at this point, and North Marion is coming into this matchup winless at 0-4, so I look for Preston to continue a streak.
And then the last team that we'll take a look at, Clay-Battelle, back in action after being off last week. Who do they have, and what do we expect from the CBs on Saturday, excuse me?
Yeah, Clay-Battelle is traveling to Bel Air St. John's of Ohio on Saturday, and honestly, I expect CB to roll again. St. John's is another winless team, and probably looking forward, to be honest, at the rest of CB's schedule. They are potentially, going into Week 10 undefeated. unless they really, it's up to them. And they're looking at going into that Week 10 matchup with Madonna as an undefeated team who is going to be in the playoffs, and that game is going probably to determine, some home field playoff games. CB should have a relatively simple week this week.
Yeah, they absolutely are controlling their destiny here. Kristin, thanks a lot for previewing all the games for us, and please continue to check vdpost.com for all the latest on the area high school football teams and other fall sports. Thanks for tuning in.